Oh, it's hot. How's it going, my G's? It's Artifacts. It's another day in your life. You're still alive. Isn't that exciting for everyone else? Today, I've got a free Vital preset for you guys. It's called the Space Funk Bass because it's very funky and it's very spacey and it's very bassy. If you're new to the channel, and even if you're not, there's some beautiful, beautiful buttons down there, shaped not like vegetables, throwing broccoli, something that I do now for a job. Yes. Today we're going to make Space Funk Bass, and you can download it down below for free. All I ask in return is that you just text your nan, tell her you love her, and that's pretty much it. Let's have a little listen to the Space Funk Bass. So quite an easy patch today, but I've got some really cool macros on here as well which you can use. So let's have a quick play with those. And what I've actually done in this bass is I've really pushed it to the maximum in terms of the low end kind of power, and it's almost verging on distorting, but it's just about okay. So if we quickly dive into the voicing first. So for the voicing, we're starting off with a couple of saw waves at different pitches, and then we're going to FM a distorted sine wave into them. So firstly, I've got a simple -12 saw wave here. Everything's going to be without unison. Everything's going to be without phase randomization. Everything's at 180. The voices is down to 1. The glide and the legato are on. Secondly, I'm going to add in another saw wave, and this time it's pitched up 7 and also an octave higher, so it makes a perfect fifth. Nice sort of chord sound almost. Then we're going to add in our sine wave underneath, and then we're going to just add in our little FMs. -24 on the sine wave. Now I'm going to FM into both saw waves. And I've chosen the specific amount here just by using my ears. And now I'm going to also distort the sine wave with the smear mode. So we've got a kind of distorted sine wave going into these saw waves. There we go. Then we're almost done with the voicing, but we're going to add in a bit of brown noise as well. You can barely kind of hear it, but I think it does give a little bit more natural character when we start to add in the filters as well. So that is literally all we have for the voicing, and what's important is we've really filled out the harmonic spectrum quite a lot, or the frequency spectrum. It's always quite full power, because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to filter the sound quite heavily, and it's going to be, you know, the main cause of movement is from filtering all of this noise. So let's get into filters next. So the first thing I do is actually comb filter everything very slightly, just to kind of play with the harmonics a little bit. So if you listen to that, just got the comb band spread minus flange minus band spread comb filter on it, and I've just tweaked the settings. I've blended in the mix a little bit. I've randomized the mix, and also I think I randomized the sort of cutoff position very slightly as well. And it just helps to move those high-end frequencies around a little bit. But next up, we're going to add in the main filter, which is filter 2, which is a low pass. And this is on our LFO2 here, this nice saw down. You can just select them up here, the kind of waveforms, and then curved it nicely. And it's got a lot of, I've left a lot of low end in, so even when it comes down, it's still got quite a lot of low end and mid range in the sound. Turned up the resonance a little bit, so we got a little bit of character at the top of the wave here. And I've driven the whole sound a bit. And yeah, just on quarter notes, very simple, but already to our beat at this point. It's already really nice and funky and spacey, hence the Space Funk Bass. So this is actually already really, really nice and usable, definitely in a song like this. But we're going to do a couple more things to make it a little bit more special with the macros and the effects. But first up, let's move over to the effects. So the next thing I've done to really make the sound a lot bigger than it already is to add a chorus. And with the mix turned up to 28% or so, and I've just kind of left the delays how they were, and I've just turned the depth right down to 9.5%, so it becomes a lot more tighter. If it was up at 50, it's very cool, but it's a little bit too spread out. So I'm going to bring that back down. And now without it, we've got a much bigger, wider sound, but it's tight enough that we're not spreading it all out too crazily. Next up, we're going to add in a little bit of delay, and this is going to be just tracked to our macro, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then we've got a little bit of distortion. It's literally such a small amount, it's not really doing too much. I've boosted the high end a bit because we've taken out all of these frequencies with the low pass. I've reintroduced some of these high frequencies on the EQ here. And I've got a tiny bit of reverb just to finish off the sound, 1.5%, but gives it that little natural tail that it might be otherwise missing. So with those main effects already in place, let's quickly jump over to the macros. So I've got 4 main macros. One is to open the sound a bit further, as you can bring up the energy a little bit before you release the tension, between your sort of phrases. Then I've got a little bit of a speed button, which kind of just does what the obvious thing you would do, changes the speed of the LFO. Maybe best used in little quick amounts, but not the best macro of the 4. The slapback is very, very nice. It has... This is where we make use of the delay I mentioned earlier. I've just turned up the mix and it's just on 1/8 in mono. It's very simple, but definitely nice to automate up with the open, for example. And what the open is modulating is the filter 2 here. So it's going to bring up the filter. So we have a little bit more high end, kind of high frequencies coming in and staying in. And it's also going to change the shape. So it's rebalancing to bring out a little bit of low end and bring up some of that lost high end that we kind of filtered out. So that's all the open is doing. So we bring those guys back though. And the most important and most fun macro I've got is the groove. And this one, I've actually created another LFO to modulate the filter, but on a different timing. So this is a quarter notes dotted, but I've turned the smooth all the way up so the LFO is inactive. It's not working yet. Until we bring up the groove knob, it's going to turn the smooth down, and thus it will activate the filter. So we have these offbeat kind of filter wubs as well in the sound. So playing that, with the drums as well. And obviously you could go crazy and try some different patterns here on this LFO3. But for example, all like cool ideas, but I liked the way this kind of groove worked with this kind of drum and bass pattern. You could, for example, automate it to just have these little groovy one-shots, once in a while as well. But anyway, that is the Space Funk Bass. I hope you guys really enjoyed that and make use of it down below in your own tracks for free. Don't worry about it. And yeah, make sure you guys take advantage of my mentorship as well. I've helped people get signed to Hospital, to RAM. I've helped real beginners get their first ever releases as well. It's not a joke. I put in a lot of work and effort with my students, so you will definitely be getting a good bang for your buck if you book a production session with me. You can do that directly below. If you need to know anything more about it, hit me up. But if you're ready for it, you're ready for it, and let's do it. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wicked weekend. Peace out.